Good evening, councillors. I declare the agenda briefing open at 6:01 p.m. Good evening, councillors, staff, ladies and gentlemen. This meeting today is being held on Whadjuk Noongar Budja, and I'd like to acknowledge and pay my respects to elders past, present and future. I thank all past and present members of the community that have supported the city to better understand and value Noongar culture within the city of Wanneroo. I invite you to bow your head in prayer. Lord, we thank you for blessing our city, our community and our council. Guide us to act fairly, without fear or favour, and with compassion, integrity, wisdom and honesty. May we show true leadership, be inclusive of all, and guide all of the city's people and many families to a prosperous future that all may share. We ask this in your name. Amen. Please note that the audio-visual proceedings of tonight's meeting will be live broadcast online, with the exception of matters discussed behind closed doors. The broadcast of the proceedings of the meeting can be accessed live and on demand through the City of Wanneroo YouTube channel. Attendances are as per the record. We have an apology from Councillor Miles, and we have Councillor Moore on parental leave, and Councillor Nguyen isn't in the chamber yet. I think Councillor Figg is on his way from work, knowing Councillor Figg, and Councillor Huntley just entered, so she's here at the moment. We now go to deputations. Deputations must relate to a report on the current agenda briefing. A deputation is not to exceed 3 speakers in number, and only those speakers may address the council members. Speakers of a deputation will collectively have a maximum of up to 10 minutes, dependent on the number of deputations received, to address the council members, unless an extension of time is granted. A deputation is to be in the form of a statement, and no debate or discussion on the matter is to occur. Questions from council members relating to the subject matter should be reserved until the administration has presented on the relevant report during the meeting. However, a point of clarification by a council member on a specific statement may be permitted. Please be advised that the following deputations have been confirmed, and that is from Jeremy Cordina, Development of the Public Open Space, Lot 2, Diver Road, Darsh, funding arrangements with Parcel Darsh Proprietary Limited, 4.3 on the supplementary agenda. Jeremy, would you like to come and take the podium and just give us your name and the suburb you live in? Thank you.
Thanks very much for your time today. Jeremy Cordina from Parcel Property. Get started. Parcel Property is the land development arm of the ABN Group owned by Dale Alcock, and we purchased this site back in 2019. For the past few years, we've been working with council to do design over the POS, which takes into account the environmental requirements for this site. As of, I think it was last week, we received a clearance from the DWER and Department of Health, which has taken us the best part of a year to achieve, but we expect to get titles on this particular site in around about 4 to 6 weeks' time. I would like to thank the City of Wanneroo for their collaborative approach in the design for this POS. We're trying to deliver a POS that is sorely needed for the local community, and that has a mix of soft landscape, but with the provision of a future set of club rooms and significant parking, which will be required for those club rooms, which I believe are scheduled for a later date. Parcel and City of Wanneroo have been discussing a co-contribution towards this public open space, which we would manage, which we've managed much larger projects than this from a landscape perspective, and we would be working with the city to deliver this asset many years than would otherwise be the case. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your deputation. I don't think there are any other deputations in the chamber, so we now go to planning and sustainability. Are there any items you'd like to speak to, Mr Piggott?
Thank you, Mayor and councillors. In relation to tonight's meeting, the Planning and Sustainability Directorate's presenting 3 reports. We weren't intending to formally introduce items 4.1 or 4.2 as these reports relate to updates following advertising. However, we were intending to speak to late report 6.1, and Manager of Land Development, Craig Wanneroo, is here to introduce that item to you.
Thank you, Mr Wanneroo.
Thank you, Mayor and councillors. Item 6.1 relates to the development of the sports public open space at Lot 2 Driver Road in Darch. It's looking at the funding arrangements with Parcel Darch Proprietary Limited. Parcel's currently developing the 24-hectare land parcel, Lot 2 Driver Road in Darch, which is known as Kinmore Green Estate, which includes 4.8 hectares for a proposed neighbourhood sports POS, which is equivalent to 20% of their gross subdivisible area. There's no requirement under the WAPC subdivision approvals for Parcel to construct, maintain or contribute cash in lieu to this public open space infrastructure. They're simply reimbursed for the land component through the Cell 6 DCP, which is approximately just over $12 million. And this is expected to occur in the coming months. It should be noted that the Cell 6 is substantially developed at approximately 90%, and the acquisition of the land through the DCP will assist in finalising a significant outstanding piece of infrastructure which is provided by the DCP and will enable the progression towards the ultimate closure of East Wanneroo Cell 6. Parcel understands the importance of providing the POS and the financial impost of the delivery of such infrastructure by the city. As such, they've offered to provide a $1.7 million financial contribution towards the construction costs of the POS, and has also offered to project manage the delivery as outlined in their letter of offer, which is in attachment 2 of the report. This contribution is not required under the WAPC approvals and is done so outside of the approvals in good faith and for the enjoyment of the community. The total cost of delivering the POS is estimated to be $7.69 million, which comprises of Stage 1 and Stage 2 works. This is reflected in the current long-term financial plan for delivery in 2032. And in the draft long-term financial plan, it's shown as years 3, 4 and 5 for Stage 1. The city did not anticipate the site being developed in the short term due to the contaminated site remediation requirements. However, Parcel is progressing quickly with subdivision and remediation of the site. Stage 1 of the sports public open space is estimated to cost just over $4 million, or $4.54 million if Stage 2's floodlighting is brought forward to Stage 1. Stage 2 is estimated to be $3.15 million and covers the cost of the sports amenity buildings that are proposed for that site. Costs for the sports amenity buildings and the floodlighting may be further reduced through grant funding. So total cost of $4.5 million for Stage 1, as outlined in Parcel's letter of offer. Their contribution amount of $1.7 million will be given to the city, and the city will be required to fund the difference, which is $2.84 million. This contribution is subject to various conditions, one of which is completion of works on before June 2026. Parcel's offer is to project manage the delivery of the POS to the minimum standard. Ideally, they would pre-fund the construction and then invoice the city for its percentage share of costs. The details of any agreed arrangement would be captured in a deed of agreement between the city and Parcel. The provision of additional sports space within Darch and Lansdale areas is an appropriate response to deal with the demand in the area, and will accommodate existing utilisation and future growth in the area. The POS will provide a local passive park amenity for residents, as well as active playing fields, and this will assist in managing the load and existing nearby sports spaces such as Kingsway and Warradale Park. Council has two options to consider. Option one is refuse the offer from Parcel and fully fund the POS delivery at a higher cost with municipal and grant funding in future years as part of the city's long-term financial plan. Option two, accept the offer from Parcel and authorise the Chief Executive Officer to enter into a deed of agreement with Parcel to formalise the funding arrangements for the development of the POS and list the amount of $2.84 million in the draft 2025-26 capital budget to be funded from municipal funds towards the development of the POS as part of the 2025-26 budget. The offer provided by Parcel is considered to be a good outcome deal for the city, as it provides a $1.7 million saving for the city, which would otherwise have to be funded through the city's own funds, and provides a facility to meet the community needs. Parcel will likely finish their development of Lot 2 Driver Road within the next couple of years, and there is a possibility that they may withdraw the offer once this subdivision is complete. It's therefore recommended that Council support option 2, and we'll be happy to take any questions on that item.
Thank you, Mr Wainsborough. Do we have any questions on item 6.1? Councillor Seif.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for the report. I think it's very good, and I'm all for the proposal and the recommendation. My question is around, in the letter that's on page 9 in the supplementary, it says in point 1, confirmation from the city that the full extent of works will be constructed as per designs lodged with the city. Is this attachment here the designs that was lodged? Are we able to get a copy of those?
Yes, through you, Mayor. The design that's been approved is a detailed landscape and irrigation design drawing set, which reflects what is in the concept design. So there is another drawing set which has been approved by the city that will form the basis for going out to tender. Okay. Councillor
Seif.
So are we able to have a copy of that?
We'll have a look at that and see if we can forward that through to you. It's not a public document as such, but we can certainly forward that through.
Thank you. Any other questions, councillors? Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Mayor. Just one question just from the concept plan that we've been provided. Just with the parking spaces, has there been an analysis around, is that enough parking providing, because I know the oval size does look quite large and there's obviously going to be some other facilities on that site once it's all complete. Is there enough parking, and is there on-street parking that's also been allocated to this project as well?
Mr Wainsborough.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. My understanding is there will be parking on the external roads for that public open space. In regards to the other question, I'm not aware of any parking analysis for that particular parking area that's shown on the concept, but we can certainly look into that, so I'm happy to take that on notice. Okay.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Rowe, you have a question?
Thank you, Mayor. The recommendation on page 7 lists the amount of $2.84 million to be considered as part of the city's 25-26 capital budget. It says that the source of those funding will be municipal funds. Can I ask if the funding will be taken from reserves, and what strategy the city is considering for replenishment?
Mr Piggott.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mayor. That will be, I guess, for consideration by council and administration once a determination has been made as to whether or not we proceed with this agreement. So we can provide an answer to that at a later date.
Any other questions about this item, councillors? If there are no other questions about this item, I go to item 4.1. Councillors, do we have any questions on item 4.1? If there are no questions on item 4.1, I go to item 4.2, councillors, do I have any questions on item 4.2? If there are no questions on 4.2, we now go to assets. So, councillors, be aware we have two confidential attachments to two of our assets items this evening. If we want to discuss those, we need to go behind closed doors. It'll depend on the questions that you require to be asked. Mr Singh, are there any items on your agenda this evening that you'd like to speak to?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. All three reports from assets are tender reports. They are standard tender reports, so we'll be happy to respond to any questions from council members.
Thank you, Mr Singh. Councillors, do I have any questions on item 4.3? Councillor Wright, and it's not on the confidential attachment. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I did circulate some questions to the administration before, and I just wanted to put on record some of these questions just for members of the public. With the upgrade of stage 2, will there be any loss of provision of any of the assets that are currently at Rotary Park as part of this upgrade?
Mr Singh?
Mr Nicholson will provide a response to that, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Nicholson.
That right one.
Yeah, I can say there'll be no loss of any amenity in terms of the upgrade works on Rotary Park.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Wright.
Sorry, so just supplementary to that, mainly around the shelters, the barbecues, the bins, all of those sorts of things that are currently at the park now. There's no loss of any of that for the new upgrade.
Mr Nicholson.
That is correct. There'll be no loss of any of those items in the upgrade.
Thank you. Councillor Wright has another question.
Thank you, Mayor. Just my last one. Also on page 55, and I know that it is slightly an operational question, but I know from the stage 1 upgrades, there was quite a lot of issues around the materials that were used, and there was quite a lot of expression of interest from residents around the transitioning from timber to metal materials, and there were quite a few parents that had contacted Central Ward councillors around particular burn marks because there was no shade. A lot of this is in regards to the fort structure and the materials that are used, knowing that on page 55 the old timber playhouse is now moving to a steel infill metal-like structure. So have we taken into consideration the concerns that have come through on the fort in using those metal materials? Is there any other materials that are not or more heat resistant than using metal sort of structures?
Mr Nicholson.
Right, through you, Madam Mayor. Yes, the team has taken into account the feedback in terms of the old fort structure and the new structure with regard to what was the old timber playhouse will meet current Australian safety standards and obviously be able to manage any heat implications on hot weather days.
Thank you. Any other questions on this item? Councillor Bedworth.
Thank you, Mayor, through yourself. Just with regards to the total landscapes, they scored 7th in the qualitative criteria. Can administration provide any assurances that the qualitative shortcomings won't compromise on any delivery of quality, particularly around safety and accessibility?
Mr Nicholson. Mr Singh.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll take that one. The tender process, when you see in the report, is ranking, but that doesn't mean the score is not compliant. Score of all these tenders is compliant score. So on that basis, we have recommended this particular tender for the award, which means they do meet the requirements of the scope of work and they meet our selection criteria for this particular tender.
Thank you, Mr Singh. Any other questions on item 4.3? If there are no more items on 4.3, we now go to 4.4, I believe. The tender 25020 for parks and streetscapes maintenance for Butler and Ridgewood. Councillors, do have any questions on this item? Councillors, do I have any questions on this item? If there are no questions on this item, we go to item 4.5, tender for 24206, provision of conservation weed control services. If there are no questions on that item, we now go to community and place. Ms Davis. Ms Davis, are there any items you wish to talk to this evening?
Good evening, Mayor Aiken and council members. Community in Place has 5 items on the agenda tonight. We have responded to questions on notice. However, we would like to introduce some of the items as you roll through them.
Thank you. Item 4.6, would you like to speak to that?
Thank you, Mayor. So item 4.6, the City's Reconciliation Action Plan. The report can largely be taken as read. However, we wanted to draw your attention to the core of the report. Having a council-endorsed Reconciliation Action Plan, or a RAP, is a guide to decision-making and actions that continually support reconciliation, build relationships and trust between the city, the community and, importantly, our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. The City has a formal commitment to reconciliation since 2012, as evidenced in the report. And the City is just one of 5 WA local governments to have a RAP and one of 37 across Australia. Most recent population data suggests that 1.9% of our population in the City do identify as Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander people, adding to the criticality of our collective role in advocating for and with all people to have a voice for inclusion. Without regulatory guidance for developing a reconciliation plan, it is therefore a moral and a practical responsibility and a step forward in fostering these respectful and equitable communities that we support. The item outlines the comprehensive engagement process in Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, has had direct engagement with the Aboriginal community-controlled organisations, elders, traditional owners, community groups and Noongar individuals. With your endorsement of this item, administration is ready to progress on Council's commitment to continuing towards reconciliation. And I also have the Coordinator of Community Development here to respond to any parts of the report, should you have any questions.
Thank you, councillors. Are there any questions on item 4.6? Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Mayor. Just 2 questions from me on this item. One of them was in regards to some of the mandatory prerequisites that haven't been achieved, and the Director circulated some responses to Council today. I was just a bit concerned with some of those in terms of why nothing has been done through 3 or 4 iterations, because to me, reading in terms of having opportunities for staff to undertake training and RAP working group 1 seems to me as a really simple step of something that we can procure someone to come in and deliver something. I'm not sure why it hasn't been achieved through 3 or 4 iterations of the RAP.
Ms Searle.
Yeah, through the Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Wright, for your question. Yes, you are correct. There are a number of prerequisites for a stretch RAP. Administration has very much been working towards achieving the mandatory prerequisites for a stretch RAP. However, some of them require setting baselines and others require really embedding certain processes and procedures into the organisation, which takes some time to do. So while we are very committed to our reconciliation across the city, some of the prerequisite requirements do take a fair bit of time to get to. So we are working towards them, but yeah, some of them we're just not quite there yet. And to progress to a stretch RAP, you have to achieve all of the prerequisites. You can't have achieved even 90%, you have to achieve 100%.
Thank you. Councillor Wright?
So just in supplementary to that, with these now being put in, from what I understand, in the new RAP, are we on track to achieve all of those mandatory ones by the close of the next period to be able to then go on to the next phase, or are we still predicting we're maybe another RAP short from where we need to be to progress to that next stage?
Go ahead.
Through the Mayor. As I said, we are working towards it, so it will depend how, I guess, the city progresses along that track for the prerequisites, bearing in mind all the other work and budget requirements the city has. So it's definitely achievable by the next iteration of the RAP. It just, will depend on many other factors that come into play.
Thank you. Another question from Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Mayor. And just my last question was in regards to the graphic design of documents. And I know I have brought this up with the administration around presenting strategies or plans that haven't been graphic designed and then endorsing something and then all of a sudden a version that hasn't been seen by council is being released. Have we now got a process in place before these documents are brought to us that are basically fit for ready to be able to be circulated with the public?
Mr Parker.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the question, Councillor Wright. Your feedback's certainly been taken on notice. We haven't adopted, a formal position. Although ideally it would be fantastic if we could bring documents to council that have been fully graphically designed. Sometimes, from a timing perspective, you're looking at the content as opposed to the whole picture. So I think our preference is to get you something graphically designed, but we're not going to be able to meet that target in every instance if time is critical, I guess.
Thank you, Mr Parker. Any other questions on item 4.6? Deputy Mayor Rowe.
Thank you, Mayor. My question is just around the endorsement process from Reconciliation Australia. I understand that in previous years the rigid format that is required for endorsement by that body has made it sometimes difficult to get approval in a timely manner. Would the administration say that this process has been easier this year and that's been reflected in the comments that have been provided thus far from Reconciliation Australia?
Ms Searle.
Through the Mayor, yes, thank you for your question. We have been working very closely with Reconciliation Australia in the development of this RAP, and I would say yes, through learnings on our part and also Reconciliation Australia's part, the process is a lot smoother. It obviously does require some level of negotiation on the actions, but that's the whole a great process. We have received conditional endorsement from Reconciliation Australia, which is very exciting. So we are, following council consideration at the ordinary council meeting, we are expecting Reconciliation Australia to formally, fully endorse the document.
Thank you. Any other questions? I'll go to Councillor Bedworth first.
Thank you, Mayor. My question is just around community engagement. I note that there was only 3 submissions throughout the process. And before I carry on, by the way, it's a great report. Just wanted to caveat that. I just wonder, are we going to have a period of reflection on why the returns were so low on this occasion and how we in the future might do additional outreach strategies to connect with perhaps even younger voices in the future?
Ms Searle.
Thank you, through the Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Bedworth, for your question. Yes, you are correct. So through the formal consultation, we did receive 3 formal submissions. However, we don't feel that that has diminished the engagement throughout the development of this plan at all. We've worked quite extensively through Near Court, our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Community Reference Group, and all of our other pre-existing networks and relationships to get input into the plan as it has been developed. And obviously at the end of that period, we have gone out to a formal 2-week public consultation period as well, which we did receive 3 formal submissions through that process. And it's not to diminish the fact that we have broadcast it as widely as we feel we could. But noting there is always opportunity for improvement, we will definitely be working through, if council endorse the RAP through the next period to engage not only younger voices of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, but our whole community in involvement in reconciliation going forward.
Thank you. Councillor Seif.
Thank you, Mayor. Just further to Councillor Wright's question, I did read the responses today, but the response that I've heard this evening in regards to the sort of the easier items, for want of a better word, that we can do to achieve the stretch level of engagement. The response I've heard this evening gives me the impression that we're not going to do any of them until we reach a point where we can do all of them in the one period, and I'm perhaps just a little bit uncomfortable with that. Like just the training element, that and the racism training, the two of those, I would have thought that that is something that the organisation would be looking at anyway, regardless. Is that on the calendar at any point?
Ms Searle.
Thank you, through the Mayor. Thank you, Councillor C, for your question. So yes, we have, noting that we're staying on the Innovate wrap for this next period, we have received permission from Reconciliation Australia to add some of the stretch wrap targets and actions that we are already ready to action within this current Reconciliation Action Plan that is proposed for consideration. So we're absolutely going to be working through the ones that we can. Yes, hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you. Councillor C.
Thank you, Mayor. And just on the engagement with the three responses, did we reach out to our Kookaburra ladies at any point?
Ms Searle.
Through the Mayor, thank you. Yes, thank you, Councillor C, for your question. We have gone and directly liaised with the Kookaburra Club ladies and invited them also to provide feedback on the draft document as well.
Thank you. Any other questions on this? Deputy Mayor Rowe.
Thank you, Mayor, and apologies, this is without notice, so if it does have to be taken on notice, that's completely fine. I recall that one of the actions that Nicaragua Court has been pushing for many years has been cultural awareness and cultural safety training to be undertaken by elected members, and we'd made some progress on that, on having it scheduled in elected members' diaries. I remember there was a scheduling conflict that resulted in that having to be postponed. I just want to ask on the record, because I know it is quite significant to Nicaragua Court members as we approach council elections, has that been rescheduled for this term of government?
It's been rescheduled for the 5th of August this year. And that was on my agenda as soon as I got elected in 2022 as well. So we finally got it happening. Thank you. Any other questions on item 4.6? Okay, we now go to item 4.7, Local Heritage Survey 2025. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. In introducing this item, I'd firstly like to welcome to the Chambers the Manager of Cultural Development, and this is the first report in her new capacity. I'd also like to welcome back to Chambers Laura Gray, who's in the Chambers as the Technical Report Author and the Cultural Heritage Advisor, and I'd like to introduce you to Amber Evans, who is the new Coordinator of Cultural Development for the city. We'd like to introduce this item due to the regulatory responsibility of the decision of this item and how it will commit council and what it will commit council to. Development of the item does acknowledge the work of Margaret Cockman in the development of the thematic analysis, has been supported by the Heritage Services Advisory Group and the Historical Society as key stakeholders. After the extensive 3-month consultation period, an additional 70 sites were identified. Consultation has been largely supportive of the item that is in front of you. And administration has additionally written to all of the people that are known that have been a part of that consultation process and has gone and met with others on a one-on-one basis as required as part of an education or awareness process. The local heritage survey is a historical account of post-European contact. Whilst you may note that there are some Aboriginal sites incorporated, they are all post-European contact. So, for example, the Aboriginal War Museum, Nangara School and the Scar Tree. The Aboriginal cultural heritage that is pre-European contact is actually captured as part of the Aboriginal Cultural Heritage List. That is a state government document and responsibility, and it is governed by a different act, so the Aboriginal Cultural Heritage Act. Importantly, next steps from this report, should it be endorsed at the council meeting, will be to include updating the database, the state government database with survey items, creating a designed document as well, so that that's a clear communication tool with all of the stakeholders, including developers, etc., who would like to use this document or the information pertaining to it. Include some visual maps by suburb, updating the city's website, having access to these documents in civic sites, and conducting 4 yearly reviews. We will also aim to finalise the conservation management plans of the 2 known sites that are in council's control currently. That is planned for this financial year and will be considered as part of the city's long-term financial planning process. And further down the track, we aim to develop a decision-making strategy that will guide, perhaps, for example, strategic acquisition of Category 1 and 2 sites, together with a heritage trail and management of the lime kilns as of unique heritage to the city. We do look forward to your questions, and we have staff available to answer them.
Thank you. Councillors, do we have any questions on item 4.7? Jordan.
Thank you, Mayor. Really good survey, and I know we're not supposed to say comments, but one of my questions was in regards to some of the place numbers around whether we can get an opportunity to add in pictures of maybe if there is any historical pictures or maybe what the site looks like now, because I know some of them do have pictures and some don't, but for those that are not familiar with the site, it would be nice to know even what it looks like today or have a rough idea. So I'm not sure whether we can add in or backdate if we do have any pictures of what the place used to look like. I think it would just add a bit more visuals for people that are reading the document. I'm not sure if that can be looked at.
Thank you. Ms Kruger.
Thank you, through the chair. And I apologise, I'm recovering from a cold and I'm very croaky still. Thank you for your question, Councillor Wright. Some of the sites that don't have pictures are because they might be on private land and we haven't had permission to access it. But as part of the branding of the new document, we can absolutely make further efforts to engage with those property owners and seek their approval to get a current photograph. We can absolutely go back through our records and see if we're able to find pictures of that might be available that are on the historical record of what it may have looked like previously. So it is something that we can look at. There are some sites that are listed within the new survey that we've drawn from the draft thematic history, which was prepared with a lot of input from the Heritage Services Advisory Group and particularly Margaret Cockman, very close to her leaving us. And we are aware that there are a couple of sites that we've listed that were rated as being significant in Wanneroo's history that we actually don't know where the physical location was because that has been lost. It's not been recorded well. So it might not be possible to get photos for all of them, but we will absolutely do our best to include as many as we are able to do.
Thank you. Any other questions on this item? Deputy Mayor Rowe.
Thank you, Mayor. The work undertaken, the diligent approach to consultation and the respect shown by Laura Gray and the team have been fantastic. I must frame this as a question though. So my question is, did the administration, as part of its diligent approach to consultation on this item, also engage with Necuttingen court members for their feedback?
Ms Kruger.
Thank you, through the Mayor. Yes, we did. Councillor Rowe, it was an item presented to the group and then it was also sent out via email to the members as well.
Thank you. Councillor Huntley, you have a question?
I just want to foreshadow an impartiality for next week and also to thank Laura Gray for this wonderful work that she did and spent many, many years putting this together. Well done.
Thank you. Any other questions on item 4.7? There are no questions on item 4.7. We now go to item 4.8, response to PT 01 and 225 Dalvik Park, Merriwa, installation of a fronton court. And that is community facilities. Hello, Mr Clem.
Good evening, Mayor and councillors.
Thank you, Mayor. Noting that the lead petitioner supports the resolution, no further introduction was intended for this report.
Thank you. Any questions on item 4.8, councillors? Councillor Bedworth.
No, I haven't. My apologies. Wrong one.
Any questions on this item, councillors? Councillor Herridge.
Thank you, Mayor. I didn't, but I have made one note. I had no idea there was even such a thing until I read this report. So my question is, what's the membership of this group, just out of interest?
Mr Clem.
Thank you, Mayor. You're not alone, Councillor Herridge, in Fronton being new to you. From our understanding, there is no formal Fronton association or clubs within Western Australia, and this is just a group of social people who formed a petition to request this particular facility. As the report notes, from our quick research, there's only an association over east and one actual formal Fronton court facility over east, so this would it's very new to Western Australia.
Thank you. Any other questions on this item? If there are no questions on this item, we go to item 4.9, investigation into the increased usage of Queensmindari Community Centre by Queensmindari Surf Life Saving Club.
Thank you, Mayor. We would just like to note the consultation report that was prepared for this item as attachment 5 as part of a new template and process that administration intends to bring forward for all future reports regarding consultation processes. Given the item has been extensively discussed in a formal sense at many other meetings, we had no further introduction.
Thank you, councillors. Any questions on this item? Deputy Mayor Rowe.
Thank you, Mayor. Just one question from myself, and I discussed this previously with the Director. While this matter was ongoing and formal consultation was undertaken, can I now confirm that the existing user groups of the facility have been assured of their ongoing ability to hire post the end of the financial year?
Mr Clem.
Thank you, Mayor, and yes, I can confirm that all groups who had requested bookings for the 25-26 financial year have now been contacted and had those bookings confirmed.
Thank you. Any other questions on this item? Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Mayor. Just one question from me in regards to, it was actually a response that was provided to Councillor Smith's question around the utilisation of the building. Do we have a strategy, or are we preparing a strategy around our utilisation of our community centres in terms of trying to boost spreading them out, in terms of bookings, in terms of making sure our facilities are being well used? Because as I understand, also I had the same impression as Councillor Smith around, we were told that these buildings are heavily utilised, yet you've provided us a 28% in terms of utilisation. So 28% is quite low. So I'm just wanting to understand what is considered a high utilisation rate for community centres.
Mr Clem.
Thank you, Mayor. So the information we provided in response to Councillor Smith's question summarised that we had 158 separate bookings in 1 month at the Queensmindari Community Centre across the 4 bookable spaces. It totalled 499 hours for that particular facility. Our community facilities are generally available for hire for around 102 hours per week, starting from 8 a.m. in the morning through to 10 p.m. at night, and then extended by a couple of hours on Friday and Saturday night through to midnight. So that adds up to 102 hours per week. Now, obviously, across that span of hours, we're going to have periods of time where the facilities are in far less demand, and then other times where they are in quite high demand. With this particular facility, Queensmindari Community Centre, what we found is that the evening times and the weekends are particularly busy, and we are I guess in essence, oversubscribed. We have more bookings or booking requests or booking inquiries than we can accommodate at those peak times. So across those 158 bookings, in the month of March 2025, when that data was taken, every day had a booking in it, bar one across those 31 days of March. So this is, from our perspective, a heavily utilised booking, and heavily is, I guess, a general term, but from our experience with other facilities and all of our facilities, this is certainly one that's in higher demand in comparison to plenty of others. Our strategies around how we manage that is that if we do get inquiries for facilities, our staff are well aware of, I guess, what other facilities might be suitable based on the inquiry we receive. So if it's a birthday party for a young child, then we have some suggested facilities that we could make available if the preferred facility is not. If it's a larger function, like we often get at Queen's Bindari, then because of the location and the function space, then we have some other different options around the city that we can suggest those on. So our strategy is that our staff will suggest other options if we are finding that a particular facility is getting more inquiries than we have available space.
Thank you. Any other questions on item 4.9? If there are no questions on item 4.9, we now go to place management, item 4.10, Festival and Cultural Events Committee review.
Thank you, Mayor. The last item for Community in Place for this evening, the Festival and Cultural Events Committee review. This item recommends disbanding the current FACE committee as a committee of council and establishing a new advisory group. Additionally, the report recommends disbanding the current Australia Day Awards Working Group as a part of a council resolution from September 2024. These recommendations are made to support the feedback that was received during the review process that are currently deemed not fit for purpose. The proposed advisory group, as outlined by the draft terms of reference in attachment 1, are considered to be a streamlined approach and to meet the needs of councillors in conducting their duties. The review and resolution was discussed in detail at the current FACE committee at their most recent meeting held on the 5th of May and was supported. We're available to answer all of your questions for this one.
Thank you. Councillors, do I have any questions on item 4.10? Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Mayor. I've taken Councillor Miles' spot tonight. Just in regards to this particular recommendation that's been given to us, has administration considered adding in any clauses in the proposed terms of reference around dealing with operational requests from council members in terms of specifying particular locations, types of events, anything that would be out of the role other than financial, I guess?
Mr Storwitz.
Thank you, Mayor, through the Chair, and thanks, Councillor Wright, for your question. The draft terms of reference, as proposed in the report, set out the aims of the committee or the advisory group to focus on providing high level of advice, strategic advice on the intent and function of the city's community events and awards programs. It's not intended that it operate or provide advice in terms of operations of those programs and events. However, the previous committee or the current committee in effect at the moment often does elicit feedback from members on operational matters, and in many instances they're very helpful suggestions and feedback. So while it's not intended to put anything in the draft terms of reference at this stage to focus on operational matters, any suggestions that come out of that advisory group can be taken into consideration by administration.
Thank you. Ms Davis.
If I could also add some value to Mr Starwell's comment and to quote the current chair of the FACE committee, that was one of the purposes of reforming it to an advisory group, to establish the opportunity to have a lot more of a discussion around the things that sometimes do delve into that operational space, whereas a committee of council doesn't really provide that mechanism.
Thank you. Any other questions on this item? Councillor Parker.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a question. So there will be a meeting before the election period in this new format?
Mr Storts.
Thank you, Councillor Parker. Through the chair. Yes, we're on quite a tight time frame to resolve this issue prior to the end of the year and before the election. We have timeframes in relation to the city's awards and planning for next year's event program that we need to resolve prior to October. So subject to Council's decision in a fortnight, we'll be looking to establish a meeting of the new advisory group sooner rather than later.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Herridge.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple from me. The date of the first meeting, which is the same along the lines of Councillor Parker, just in regards to our meeting policy and how we fit that in, do we have a proposed date, day, time of what we've actually got coming through?
Mr Storts.
Thank you. Through the chair. As a proposed advisory group, the group wouldn't be subject to the provisions of that policy. We do have a tentative date which we're looking at for the meeting. Subject to Council's approval, we'll be looking at mid-July at this stage.
Councillor Herridge, did you have a second question? No. Any other questions? Councillor Bedworth.
Thank you, Mayor. Just one probably very simple one from me, and it's just come to me, so forgive me. As with other advisory groups, I just wonder why this one doesn't have a suggestion of representation from community members and in an effort to prevent the old tail wagging the dog type scenario.
Mr Storts.
Thank you for your question, Councillor Bedware, through the chair. We seek consistent feedback from our community members on our event program as a whole and after each event, and we report that feedback back to the committee. So we consider that feedback as part of our ongoing operational process.
Thank you. Any other questions on item 4.10? Councillor Parker.
Sorry, just a further question. I know when I was on the FACE committee, we used to do a Tuesday just before council. Do we have any indication of what the preference is going to be? Because I think you've now changed to a Monday. So if we want the 7 people to attend that obviously want to be on it, would it be possible to do it on a Tuesday, or is time just not going to allow that?
Mr Storts.
Through the chair, yeah, that time on a Tuesday prior to the council meeting was often convenient for council members who were already at the Civic Centre, but subject to council determining who will be on the committee, we'll engage with members to determine the most appropriate time.
Thank you. Any other questions on item 4.10? Deputy Mayor Rowe.
Thank you, Mayor. And I see this is obviously a standalone item, but there is some crossover and relationship with the civic events policy. So one of my questions, my only question to the admin is, can the admin consider as part of this process and the ongoing review whether the city is in the best position to deliver certain kinds of events? There's obviously some that the admin and the city is best positioned to do so as a local government, but there may be some others that industry is best qualified to deliver if they're a bespoke event about a particular topic or area. So my question is, as we continuously review this process, can the city commit to considering if it is best positioned to deliver an event or if it would be industry?
Ms Davis.
Through the Mayor, and thank you, Councillor, for your question. Can I please seek clarity? Was it the Civic Events Program or the Community Events Program you were inquiring about?
Deputy Mayor Rowe.
It's the relationship between both of them, and I don't want to enter into debate, Mayor, I'm very conscious of that for 2 weeks' time, but at the way in which the group is structured at the moment, there is the opportunity to have, in my opinion, operational input, so I'm concerned about that, and with the civic events policy. So I suppose my question is, as events are considered, can the administration reflect on whether the city as a local government is best positioned to deliver an event or an industry body?
Mr Storts.
Thank you, Mayor, through the chair, and thank you, Deputy Mayor Rowe, for your question. One of the key issues that we've tried to address through the review of the FACE Committee Terms of Reference and its relationship to the Civic Events Policy is that conflict between the policy provisions, the Civic Events Policy, and the Terms of Reference of the committee, and that's created grey areas and inconsistencies and a difficulty to administer. So the proposal before Council in terms of this report is to rectify that issue by establishing a new advisory group that focuses just on community events and community awards, and then a separate process to review the civic events policy and associated procedures would be done subsequent to that, and that process has already commenced.
Thank you. Any other questions on item 410? Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Mayor. Just one for me on this particular item. Just noting that obviously the process and both the committee and the advisory group don't have any delegated authority. And the response from one of my questions was that this now goes through the budget process. For this particular year's budget, is this supposed to be proposed as a report to next week's budget workshop? Because we haven't received any events program for any workshop to date. So if the process is to go through a budget workshop for input and discussion with the wider group, we haven't seen any context, and from my understanding, budget workshop 4 is the final before it comes to us publicly.
Mr Parker.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the question, Councillor Wright. I did review that report. I'm sort of looking over at Ms Jennings now. I'm pretty sure that program was actually included in the budget workshop report for next week. Is that correct?
Ms Jennings.
Yes, through the Mayor. Yes, it is. There is a broad view of the program in the report. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions on item 410? If there are no other questions on item 410, we go to corporate strategy and performance. Ms Jennings. Ms Jennings, are there any items you'd like to speak to on tonight's agenda?
Thank you, Mayor. We're not planning to talk on any of these, as they've either they've been to, certainly the first two have been through other forums, and then there's the monthly warrant and there is a lease, which I think is straightforward. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, do I have any questions on item 411, the Q2 report? I have a question. If you go to page 29, I see at the end of Q2, we've done 36.3% of our capital expenditure by sub-program, and that's halfway through the year. It's the second quarter. How are we going with our capital works, and will we achieve the total capital works expenditure? Mr Singh? Ms Jennings?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm sure Mr Singh can follow up on me, but we have been monitoring the progress of the capital works. We are progressing very well, and in fact we have quite a bit of expenditure coming in for Alkimos in particular, which is a big project, so we will be coming in fairly well. But I'll let Mr Singh add.
Mr Singh.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Our target is to achieve at least 90% of the adopted budget figures, and we are hitting that target this year.
Thank you. Any other questions on item 411? Councillor Herridge.
Thank you, Mayor. I've just got one on page 537 proper. Goal 7, we've got the CBP 8-year local law review. Under the item, we've deferred that pending outcome of Council's approach to treatment and management of the city's roads. I just wanted an explanation around that so we could understand that a little better.
Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't put that on notice, so if it needs to go on notice, that's fine.
Ms Coles?
Thank you for the question, Councillor Herridge, and through you, Mayor. The local law review was put on hold following a council member concept forum in relation to verge treatments. So because there's reference in the parking local law to the verge treatments, we were waiting for the verge treatment policy to be finalised to then go ahead with the local law review.
Thank you. I've just got another couple of questions here, quickly, just to confirm. On page 36, I'm looking at the intersection upgrade of Wanneroo Drive and Girraween Avenue. Detailed design is progressing, awaiting Western Power design and construction. If Western Power is the delay, have you approached the local member to see if they can help advocate to get Western Power approval through in a normal time instead of an extended time frame?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Council did discuss it, I think, last calendar year, and we did write to the Minister for Energy at that time. Since then, we've been working with Western Power to get the designs completed to match our civil construction all approvals. So I think we are on target to meet our timelines.
So we're now on target for that and we don't need to get advocacy from the local member. Okay. And Flynn Drive, Neerabup, have you, with the delays again from service providers, is that Western Power again? And have you contacted the local member, Sabine Winton, about that? Because she did offer to do that previously.
Yep, thank you, Mayor. Flynn Drive has got a number of approvals which we are working our way through. Western Power approval is imminent, so we have been in touch with Western Power regularly, and I was advised only last week that we should get the final quote from them in the next couple of weeks. But at the same time, the CEO meets with the member for Wanneroo quite regularly to provide an update on that project, and if we need their assistance, we will definitely request that.
Thank you, Mr. Singh. Any other questions on item 411? If there are no more questions on item 411, we now go to item 412, the Council Plan 2025-2034, Vision, Purpose, Goals and Priorities. Do I have any questions on this item? If there are no questions on item 412, I now go to item 413, the warrant of payments. Councillors, do I have any questions on the warrant of payments? If there are no questions on the warrant of payments, I now go to item 414, Property Services, Proposed Lease, Tiger Kart Club Incorporated, Lot 600, 570 Wattle Avenue, East Neerabup. Do we have any questions on this item? Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Mayor. Just in regards to this lease, part of the negotiation process and considering that we do have a master plan for this particular site, is there any wider discussions that take place with the lessee, which in this case is the Tiger Kart Club, in terms of whether that fits in with the master plan or not? And is there broader discussions that take place, or is it purely at a lease perspective?
Mr. Greer.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for the question. I suppose there's two parts to it. In terms of the status of the lease and the terms we've negotiated, that's with the lessee, the tenant, and administration on working terms that we feel are acceptable to recommend to council. We wouldn't bring any third parties into reviewing their commercial terms. In terms of the consistency with the master plan, we, as part of our, I suppose, internal review of what was being put forward, did check on the suitability for this with the master plan, including our community facilities team that had worked most closely on that, and it was seen as being consistent with it.
Thank you. Any other questions on this item? If there are no questions on this item, we now go to item 415, which is the National Growth Areas Alliance NGAA membership 25-26. Mr. Marmin, speak to this. Thank you, Mr. Marmin and Ms. Carragher.
Thank you, Mayor. So Advocacy and Economic Development has one report on the main agenda and one report on the supplementary agenda. I will introduce the NGAA report 4.15. and Ms Caraher will be introducing the Visitor Economy Strategy Report 6.2. So item 4.15 reports on the review into the costs and benefits of the NGAA membership and seeks Council's consideration of continued membership to the NGAA. The governance structure has now been finalised and was circulated to Council members via email and in the Wanneroo wrap last week. We will attach the final governance structure to the report for the ordinary Council meeting as well. Subject to Council endorsing membership renewal, there is an opportunity to nominate one Council member as the City's member delegate. There's also the opportunity to nominate a Council member to the Strategic Advisory Committee. A nomination form will be attached to the ordinary Council meeting report to facilitate a decision on these two positions. I'm happy to take questions on the report.
Thank you. Councillors, do we have any questions on item 450, the NGAA? Councillor Bedworth.
Thank you, Mayor. I've just got two, if that's all right. I'm just wondering, what processes are in place to ensure that member councils can influence the NGAA's national advocacy agenda, if I could?
Mr Marmion.
Through you, Mayor, thank you for the question. So all member councils can influence the national advocacy agenda. For us, that's been achieved at the City of Wanneroo mainly through administration, ensuring that the NGAA CEO is provided regular updates on the City's advocacy position. So the City has the Advocacy and Economic Development Officer regularly attend the Advocacy Policy Advisory Group meeting online. That's now called the Advocacy Group. And she's been attending that since 2017. As Manager of Advocacy and Economic Development, I've participated in the Research and Practice Group online since 2019. That's now called the Research Reference Group. That group develops a research symposium that happens every year. As the new governance structure is implemented, it's anticipated that further opportunities to influence the NGAA agenda will emerge through the Policy and Research Forum. And we will certainly look to maintain City officer participation on the Advocacy Group and the Research Reference Group. Council members will also be encouraged to attend Policy and Research Forum online events wherever applicable.
Any other questions, Councillor Bedworth?
Thank you, Mayor. Just one more. Flowing on from that then, I suppose, are there any opportunities to initiate joint campaigns with the peak bodies such as ALGA or WALGA to avoid duplication and potentially increase impact?
Mr Marmion.
Through you, Mayor, thank you for the question. Yeah, there are opportunities to develop joint campaigns where the NGAA and bodies like ALGA and WALGA have aligned priorities. So the roads and community infrastructure, for example, that funding dropped off. I think we're all hoping that that comes back at some point. NGAA does work closely with ALGA and WALGA, noting that NGAA is focused on the priorities and issues impacting just the growth area councils, whilst ALGA, which is really just a federation of all the other local government associations, represents all local governments. So it's a little bit different. There are over 500 LGAs in Australia and 137 in WA alone, and NGAA has 20 member councils, so it's much more focused. If there are joint initiatives, that would have to be initiated through the Strategic Advisory Committee.
Thank you. I'll just go to Councillor Wright because he had his hand up second. Did you have questions, Councillor Wright? Then I'll go to Councillor Parker. Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Mayor. I did have one question in terms of something that we do get from WALGA and not so much ALGA, but from WALGA is when the city access its services, I know councillors get a quarterly report presented to us in terms of how many times staff and councillors have done training, how many times we've accessed the preferred supplier program. So there's a whole bunch of stats that come through. Is there some sort of information that we can receive from them in terms of an update, in terms of how many of us have attended their events, what projects that the city has been featured in any of their programs? So every quarter or every year we get an update as councillors. Is that something we can ask them before OCM in terms of whether they can confirm if they can do that?
Mr Marmion.
Through you, Mayor, thank you for the question. Look, I don't think there's any need for me to go back and confirm whether that can happen or not. I mean, the NGAA has a staff of 2.6, which is a bit hard to compare with Wagga. Nevertheless, they do regularly update us on what's going on, and I think we can easily provide council members with updates as we go along. If that hasn't been done effectively up until now, then I can certainly make sure that happens from this point on, subject to approval.
Thank you, Mayor. Sorry, just my last question. Just in regards to the advocacy plan and how that's been implemented, noting that one of the benefits in the report, administration spoke around access to ministers and key government officials, however you want to put that. I guess how is the city or is going to utilise this? So noting in the response that you provided to me and other councillors around, obviously Olga's not the best time to do that. What is the best time and what are the plans to utilise that benefit? So are we inviting ministers to come to the city of Wanneroo and hosting, bus tours around the projects that we're doing? Are we inviting them to roundtables with council members and the mayor? Is it purely just the mayor and CEO that's having meetings? Like, how are we utilising that as a benefit if it is going to be a benefit to us?
Mr Marmion.
Through you, Mayor, thank you for the question. There's quite a lot in there. Access to ministers is definitely an interesting topic, and there's no real consistent approach to that because it really depends on the individual minister and the way that they operate, and they're all very different. We've had a lot of variability when it comes to access, and I don't think the NGAA really does promise anything. They just try to facilitate those meetings where possible. So I think that the NGAA themselves do have good access, but to get us access, that's a different issue.
Councillor Wright, and then I'll go to Councillor
Sorry,
Parker.
just a supplementary on that. So would you say that the information in the report is actually misleading in terms of being a benefit to the city of Wanneroo? Because the benefits is to the city of Wanneroo, not the NGAA, in terms of us being a member of NGAA.
Mr Marmion.
Through you, Mayor, thank you for the question. I'm not sure the report is misleading. It's a benefit for the city to have NGAA influencing ministers on our behalf, like on our advocacy agenda, for example. Sometimes they can secure us a meeting with a minister or a senator or a political figure, but it's not. I don't think it's guaranteed. So if I was on any board of an organisation, I wouldn't be guaranteeing anything like that. I just don't think it's possible, but they do try.
Thank you. Councillor Parker.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr Marmion, the report is really fantastic, thank you. And I hear what the questioning around the table is like. I just want to ask one thing. How would it affect you and your team if we were not members of NGAA?
Mr Marmion.
Through you, Mayor, thank you for the question. That's a tricky one. We've always been a member of this body, so I don't know what it's like to not be able to pick up the phone and talk to the CEO of the NGAA or send an email and ask a question on a particular topic. I think if the City of Wanneroo decided not to be a member and that resulted in other local governments not being a member and it became a body that was potentially not financially viable, I think then we would, and it fell apart, for example, if that was a scenario that could potentially happen, I think then we would notice it. And that would be very hard to unwind if that organisation disappeared. Does that make sense?
Got another question?
Yeah, no, subsequent to that. I think that was where my question was going. Would you miss having the information that you can actually use, gather, manipulate, whatever you want to call it, with this group? Would we as a city, you in your position and your team in their position, would they feel the loss of a group like this?
Through you, Mayor, thank you for the question. The short answer is yes, I think we would. That's my prediction. Yep.
Thank you. I have a practical question that I'd like to ask. If we take this to council and we elect 2 council members to be our representatives on NGAA, how long is that representation for? With the election coming up, will that cross over the election period, and how will our local council election affect that should we have members on it, and keep that in mind? Mr Marmion.
Thank you for the question, Mayor. I did actually check on this one with NGAA. The membership for the Strategic Advisory Committee is for 2 years, but if there is an election and that person is no longer able to be on that Strategic Advisory Committee, there would be a process to appoint someone else. It would probably be voted on by the member delegates. The member delegates, so each of the 20 councils members would have 1 member delegate, and they get a vote on the Strategic Advisory Committee. So that person is just nominated by the council. So if that person was no longer a council member, then the council could decide who that replacement would be directly.
So then we as a council would nominate someone else when the election happened?
That's correct.
Depending on what happened with the nomination process?
That's right, and that could be at any time.
Thank you. Any other questions, Councillor Wright?
Thank you, Mayor. Sorry, I had a couple more. Just in terms of the report, is there any opportunities for the OCM to consider any alternative approaches if we didn't support the NGAA renewal? So is there any other alternative bodies? Is there any other particular ways of doing advocacy that local government is part of? Noting that obviously City of Stirling is not a member, also a growth council, what techniques are out there that utilise that? And if there are any in-house models that could be modelled for us in terms of if we ended up beefing up the advocacy and development team, what would that look like, and what alternatives are there? Because that report didn't cover anything in terms of what else we could do.
Mr Marmion.
Through you, Mayor, thank you for the question. The report is very specifically on the NGAA membership. Should council decide not to become a member, then we would have to look at what alternatives we use going forward.
Councillor Wright.
I don't know if we can request, but is that something we can consider, because it's a dramatic thing whether council or councillors would be able to support something without having the information of what are the other alternatives there? Because what you're saying is whether support or don't support, we may lose potential benefits, and then all of a sudden we get promoted with something council may not like. So is there something we can have to compare and contrast at the time before we say yes or no to an MOU?
Mr Parker.
Sorry, Mr Marmion, I thought I'd just jump in there. If it's okay, Councillor Wright, we've obviously received your request. That's been documented. We have a settlement meeting tomorrow, so we'll work through potentially what information we could add to the report, but just bearing in mind we wouldn't be able to do a comprehensive review, but we might be able to put some suggestions of other options that are available, but it would be very light touch given the timeframes that we'd be working to.
Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a clarification question. With previous discussions, am I right in remembering that another option of if the city did beef up and did internally instead of NGAA, which was, to my recollection, covered in part of the administration's report in terms of that? So not getting into debate, but I feel like it has addressed one potential other option of doing more internal. Am I correct? Thank you.
Mr Marmion.
Through you, Mayor, thank you for the question. Yes, that is in fact correct. On page 690, there's a section that says alternative options for the city to deliver the benefits received through NGAA membership. It is a pretty light touch, and there are some estimates there around how much it would cost the city to directly engage with Canberra, for example. And so there is basically a scenario in there that looks at that potential option. But like Mr Parker has said, it's a fairly light touch. I'd probably want to do a lot more in-depth analysis on how we would run from then on, should that be the case.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Herridge.
Thank you, Mayor. Just without anticipating next fortnight's meeting. Recommendation 2 says to nominate a council member. We've got an item very similar in nomination. Will we be clarifying and making that more clear for the OC in a similar format?
Through you, Mayor,
Mr. Mummy.
thank you for the question. Yes, absolutely. I think I will need to amend those recommendations slightly to make that clearer. But that's the intention, to receive those 2 nominations subject to endorsing the renewal.
Thank you. Any other questions on this item? If there are no questions on this item, I think we'll go to 6.2, is it? The tourism strategy with Ms Carraher. Thank you.
Thank you. This report seeks council endorsement of the Discover Wanneroo Visitor Economy Strategy. The team has undertaken a comprehensive review and consultation process to develop this draft for council's consideration, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Councillors, do we have any questions on this item? No, we don't. Thank you, councillors. We now go to Legal and Governance, Review of Wards and Representation 2026. Ms Coles.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you, Mayor. So the item before you is the proposed plan for the ward review. So essentially, we're looking at commencing the process to initiate the proposal post the October 2025 local government elections. The city will then look to engage a consultant to undertake the work in November and December, with a discussion paper coming to council in May 2026. We envisage that there will be a touch point in between the December appointment of the consultant and the discussion paper coming to council via a concept forum, and public consultation will be undertaken after the discussion paper is adopted by council in May. I'm happy to take any questions.
Councillors, do I have any questions on item 416? Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Mayor. Just one question on this item. I know Council's also made another resolution around the district boundaries. Is there any opportunity to include this in the body of work to simplify and reduce costs? So you've got one round of community consultation that caters for everything, and eventually the feedback will come back in a discussion paper for us. So can that be included in the scope of that particular project?
Ms Coles.
Thank you, Councillor Wright, for the question, and through you, Mayor. Unfortunately not, because they're 2 different statutory processes that have to be undertaken. So we need to do them separately, but certainly the ward review can inform the district review. The district review report is due to come to concept forum in August.
Thank you. Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a clarification question. With the discussion paper, if this goes through on the OCM, can it be started before October, or the way that the resolution is structured, would that have to start after?
Ms Coles.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Smith. It's purely a resourcing issue at the moment, because we've got the elections coming up in October 2025. So the officer that's currently engaged with the elections will be undertaking some of this work with the consultant.
Thank you. Any other questions on this item? Councillor Herridge.
Thank you, Mayor. Clarification as well, if I can. Discussion paper to me doesn't come to an OC, it goes to a forum. So just wanting to see how much input councillors are going to get in this process, and how many times it'll come to a forum before it hits a briefing.
Ms Coles.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Herridge. So the discussion paper, it's the wording that they use in the Act in relation to the proposal itself. So it's a proposal that will come forward. We do propose to have at least one workshop with council members in between the appointment of the consultant and the discussion paper coming to the briefing. If after the first concept forum we need another one, we can look to programme that in as well.
Thank you. Any other questions on this item, councillors? If there are no other questions on this item, we go to 417, proposal to establish the City of Wanneroo as an eligible local governing body. Do we have any questions on this item, councillors? Councillor Bedworth.
Thank you, Mayor, through yourself. Just one question at the moment. I just want to know what measures will be taken to ensure that classifying council members as employees doesn't compromise any independence or perceived impartiality when we come to make decisions. How will we address that perception?
Thank you. Ms Jennings.
Thank you, Mayor. The idea of becoming an eligible local governing body is purely to be able to pay as you go. It doesn't really make anyone an employee. So you're still a council members on the actual council. Doesn't make you actually an employee.
Thank you. Any other questions on this item? If there are no questions on this item, item 5, motions on notice. We do have a motion on notice next week from Councillor Miles on a confidential matter. Item 6, late reports. I think we've spoken to item 6.1, haven't we?
Yes.
Yep. And the 6.2 and the financial activity statement. Councillors, are there any questions? Oh, that will come to the next report. Directors, please advise if there are any additional late reports to be addressed. If there are none, item 8, confidential, that council move into a confidential session to discuss item 8.1, 8.2 and 8.3 under the terms of the Local Government Act 1995, section 5.232. Recording will cease. Members of the public and administration are to exit the chamber and chambers doors will be closed, and that will occur at 7:27. Item 9, the date of the next meeting. The next ordinary council meeting has been scheduled for 6 p.m. on the 24th of June 2025 to be held at Council Chambers, Civic Centre, 23 Dundebar Road, Wanneroo. And item 10 of the agenda, closure. Thank you for your attendance, and I now declare the agenda briefing closed at 19:33 p.m. Thank you, councillors.